Hey, um, so I just want to discuss a little bit the nature of anti-Semitism. I'm in bed, it's quite early in the morning, but I just came across a news report on Jonathan Sachs. He is leading rabbi in the United Kingdom and arguably the most prominent Jew in the United Kingdom. And he has been talking about the threat of anti-Semitism in Europe and how it's like a disease in society taking hold. Anti-Semitism has been a prominent issue here recently with the allegations made against the Labour Party and everything that's been going on within that. So in that context and in that backdrop, it's a relevant subject. Um, However, the rabbi said something which caught my attention and which I disagree with quite strongly. He said that today's anti-Zionism is today's anti-Semitism. Now, he somewhat contradicted himself because only a minute before he acknowledged that Zionism is not equating to Judaism and Israelis don't equate to Jews and so forth. Um, Now, I'm coming from this video from the point of view of someone who has often defended the state of Israel. I'm not going to make any qualms about that. I have. And I stand by my views on that. I'm not going to go into the details here because it's for another video, but I have defended the state of Israel, but what I have also said very robustly is that Israel is not above criticism. And there has been something of a tendency in this debate for ideologues to sort of hijack it with this idea that if you criticize Zionism as an ideology, then it's the same as anti Semitism. Now, part of the problem here is that sometimes anti Semites do use that as a cover for their hatred of Jews and for sometimes you see it at certain Palestinian demos, at certain other demos against Israel. You do occasionally see genuine anti Semitism creeping through. But as a principle, we have to stand by this idea that Israel is not above criticism. No country should be above criticism, no country. And part of the issue I have of the debate that's going on is we're starting now to get into this idea that Jews are protected from criticism. There's a fine line between hating a group, bigotry, anti Semitism, and criticizing ideology. Now, if the rabbi is saying that anti Zionism is the new anti Semitism, that's quite an unfortunate narrative he is presenting. In fact, he's playing into the hands of the anti Semites. He's saying for them there is no difference, but he's actually playing into their hands by giving it to them on a plate and saying, well, there you go, there is no difference. Um, and that's dangerous. Firstly, there are many Jewish people who are very anti Zionist. Take, for example, Noam Chomsky, and there's others. Judaism, like any religion, has its different branches. There's Orthodox Judaism, there's Liberal Judaism, Conservative Judaism, and so on. So it's extremely important that we differentiate between hating a group and opposing an ideology. I am 100% against Islamism. I believe it is poisonous, I believe it is dangerous, and I believe it has caused massive, massive suffering. But if I came out and said I hate Muslims, that's a different matter, because that is hating an entire demographic group. Likewise, there's a fine line between saying you're opposed to or you are anti-Zionist and you hate Jews. And I would say that people who come out about conspiracy theories about Jews, like there's a secret plot to take over the world and they control the banking cartels, we've heard it all before. I would say that is genuine anti-Semitism, because it is lending into the very sort of narrative that was used in the Third Reich and other totalitarian movements that persecuted Jews. But we have to be very clear that criticizing ideology is not the same as hating a group. I would even argue that criticizing aspects of the religion of Judaism is fine. Take, for example, ultra Orthodox Judaism. They have they have practices that make the Taliban look liberal. What I mean by that is they have certain belief systems are incredibly misogynistic, incredibly controlling. I'm aware that within Judaism it's a matriarchal system, but within certain branches of Orthodox Judaism, there has been examples of extreme Orthodox Jews refusing to sit next to women on planes. This sort of mentality needs to be absolutely stamped out just as robustly as Islamist thinking. And I have the same standard to any sort of religious extremism, whether it be Hindu extremism, Christian extremism, Islamist extremism, whatever it is, it needs to be stamped out. And Jewish extremists shouldn't be immune from that. And I would like to think moderate Jewish people agree with me on that. So we'll leave it there. But as someone who's defended the state of Israel, I think we have to be very, very careful not to go down the line of saying all criticism of Zionism is equating to hating Jewish people. That is utterly absurd. In Britain, we have a little bit more scope for debate on this. I think in the United States, um, there is unfortunately very limited debate on these sort of issues because there are some powerful Zionist figures in the US who, frankly, are very influential. Um, and that's not the same as an anti-Jewish conspiracy theory because that's talking about Zionism as opposed to Jewish people. So yeah, it is extremely important that we differentiate this. Freedom of expression must include the right to criticize ideology, and that is very different from criticizing people. So if someone says the Jews are out to do this, that's anti-Semitism. But if they say ultra-Orthodox Judaism has misogynistic characteristics, that's not anti-Judaism. If they say, I am opposed to Zionism because I'm opposed to Israel's policies, that's not anti Judaism, and it shouldn't be conflated as such.